Hey everybody, Chris here from chrisamericos.com, where we help you level up and show the world the best version of yourself. And in today's video, we're continuing our series about how to speak fast like a native speaker. But this time, we're talking about reduced pronouns and other words that people pronounce differently when they're speaking quickly and when words are not stressed. When you're listening to how native speakers talk in English, you might think that they speak really fast. And sure, sometimes they do. But also, it sounds like they're speaking fast because the sounds that they say aren't always very clear. At least they're not clear to people who are still learning English. And a big part of this is understanding the strong form and the weak form and how that changes the pronunciation of a word. We've talked about this a little bit in our previous videos, but today we're really going to focus on how some words are pronounced very differently when they're stressed in the sentence and when they're not stressed. And specifically, pronouns. But what is a pronoun? A pronoun is a word like I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they. Those are subject pronouns. We also have object pronouns. Me, you, him, her, it, us, you, them. There are other categories of pronouns too, but today we're going to focus on the reduced pronunciation of some pronouns. These are words that you think you know, but you might not know them. Or you might not recognize them or understand them when a native speaker is speaking. The first and maybe easiest example of this is the word you. Like we've talked about in some of our previous videos, the word you has a weak form and it sounds like ya. In fact, sometimes native speakers even write the word differently. They might write Y-A instead of Y-O-U. And this shows you how they're thinking about the pronunciation when they're writing. They're thinking about pronouncing this word like ya instead of you. You know what I mean? For example, in the sentence, I don't know what you want, there are two things that are happening in this example that are important to understand. And we've talked about them before, but we'll quickly review it right now. First of all, the word you is not stressed in this sentence, so it doesn't take the strong form you, it takes the weak form ya. Secondly, the last sound of the word what, t, combines with the first sound of the word you, y, to create a new sound, ch. That's right, t plus y equals ch. So instead of saying, I don't know what you want, we say, I don't know what you want. What you want. What you want. Some people might pronounce this, I don't know what you want, with a u. Or some people might pronounce it, I don't know what you want, with a y. Or some people might pronounce it, I don't know what you want, with an sound instead of an oo sound. And many times native speakers and teachers will specifically pronounce the word with its strong form to make sure that it's clear and understandable for the person who's listening to them, especially in situations where we're making a YouTube video, or where we're teaching someone English, or where we're speaking with someone who's from a different country and still learning English. In these situations, it's common for the native speaker to speak a little bit differently so that all of the sounds are clear. But typically, when you hear two native speakers speaking with each other, they're going to reduce some of the sounds to speak quickly and more naturally. Another example of a reduced sound is with the word your. And this happens with both your as a possessive adjective, meaning your car or your house, and also with your as a contraction of you are, like you're the greatest English teacher on YouTube. And then I say, no, you're the greatest subscriber. You can already hear that with my American accent, this word sometimes sounds like your instead of your. But the word your can also be further reduced down to your. So we can say, it's your house. And we can say, you're a great student. We can do the same thing with the word yours, which is reduced to yours. So for example, we can say, whose car is this? Oh, it's yours. Is this mine? No, it's yours. When we pronounce it like this, it sounds similar to hers, yours and hers. But it's important to remember that different people in different places pronounce these words differently. So some people might say yours, some people might say yours, and some people might say yours. But they're all saying the same word. Now, in many cases of sound reduction, what's happening is we're reducing the vowel sound down to a neutral schwa sound. And the schwa sound is used very often in English when a word is unstressed. If you don't know what the schwa sound is, this is basically when we drop the sound. We say instead of the real sound. Probably the best example of this is in British English when they say a word that ends with ER and it sounds something like teacher, whereas in American English it would be teacher. But American English uses schwa sounds all over the place too, like in the word vegetable, where the letter A is reduced to a schwa sound. Vegetable, not vegetable. But in other cases, sounds are reduced differently. For example, when we have an H at the beginning of a word, it might be completely eliminated, forgotten, left out, or not pronounced. And the pronoun he is a good example of this. Instead of he with an H sound at the beginning, like he, it might sound like E without an H sound. Different English speakers do this to a different extent, and in different sentences, the H sound might be more or less prominent. But let's take a look at an example sentence. What's he doing? Do you hear an H sound in this sentence? What's he doing? If you hear an H sound at all, it's very light, but probably this H sound is completely omitted. One more time. What's he doing? Or many speakers will also reduce the G sound at the end of the word doing, so it'll sound more like, what's he doing? Again, what's he doing? Now, I'm just pronouncing it this way so that you can clearly understand what I'm talking about and how we've reduced this sound. If a native speaker were to pronounce these words very slowly in the way that I've just done it, they would pronounce all of the sounds. They would say, what's he doing? This is how they would speak if they wanted to be very clear. But if they were speaking very quickly and not thinking about what they're saying, then they would probably sound more like, what's he doing? So the word he becomes E, and the word he's, with an apostrophe S, becomes ease. For example, I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what he's doing. It's important for me to also tell you that sometimes a person might pronounce the H sound. And you might be thinking, but Chris, you just said that you don't pronounce the H sound, so what is it? Do you pronounce it or do you not pronounce it? Well, you can actually do both, but most of the time English speakers are not going to pronounce it in the sentences that I've just given you. However, you could pronounce the H sound with a small difference in meaning. So listen again. If they're speaking quickly, John and Mike might say, what's he doing? I don't know what he's doing. And you don't really hear any H sound. But if we change it and we add in this H sound, what's he doing? Then it draws more attention to the word he, and maybe the person we're speaking with will think, they really want to show me how he is not another person. So even though we didn't really stress this word in the sentence, we gave the word he more stress than we would if we didn't pronounce the H sound. So listen to how this question sounds if we completely stress the word he. What's he doing? In this case, it's clear that we're focusing on he, not another person, but he. When might we use this in a sentence? So for example, John asks me, hey Chris, how's Mike doing? And I say, he's good. He's still living with Brian. And John says, oh, Brian? How's he doing? You see, he stressed the word he to show that he's talking specifically about Brian, not about Mike, not about Chris, not about someone else, only Brian. And there are other words where this happens too. So pronouncing the H sound might put more stress on the word and might change the meaning a little bit or make someone think that we're trying to focus attention on that word that starts with H. So it's better or more natural not to pronounce the H sound. Another word where we don't pronounce the H sound at the beginning is the word him, which becomes im or m or Like in the example, give him the ball. Give him the ball. Give him the ball. Some people might pronounce it like give him the ball, and others might say give him the ball, and others might say give the ball. But it happens so quickly that it really sounds more like a schwa sound again. Another word where this happens is the word his, which becomes is. And that's confusing, right? Yes, the word his sounds like is when we don't pronounce the H, which happens in a lot of sentences because this word is not stressed. For example, that's his opinion. That's his opinion. That's his opinion. Or for example, this is his sister. Or, for example, do you know who Sarah is? No, you don't know Sarah? But you know John. Well, Sarah is his sister. Sarah is his sister. Sarah is his sister. Sarah is his sister. In this sentence, it sounds like we say is twice because the first is really is, and the second is his. That sounds like a Dr. Seuss book. And this is not just about the words he, him, and his. It's also about the word her. Her changes to So if I ask you about Sarah, I can say, do you know her? Do you know her? Do you know her? Or I can say, give her the money. Give her the money. Give her the money. Give her the money. This can be quite confusing because we add as an ending to a lot of words, right? And in this example, I said give her the money, so giver sounds like a person who gives, a giver, right? But that's not what it is. It's two different words. It's give her, but we've reduced the H sound, so you don't even hear it. Give her the money. Give her the money. Since we're talking about pronouns and possessive adjectives, another word to understand is the word our, because a lot of people don't pronounce it our, they pronounce it are. And the same with the word ours. People might pronounce it ours. So they might say, this is our house, it's ours. And other English speakers might pronounce it, this is our house, it's ours. These differences in pronunciation aren't really about reducing sounds, it's just about accent and pronunciation. And another example of how accent and pronunciation of pronouns might be different in different places is the word they and the word them. You see, in some parts of the world, English-speaking people don't pronounce the sounds th and th, and instead they say other sounds. And you're probably thinking, thank you so much, I hate saying those sounds, it's so hard to say those sounds, and they don't sound good anyways, so if I don't have to say them, then I'm not gonna say them. But wait, because most English speakers in the world do say those sounds. You do need to say them. However, there are some places where people don't say them. So it's important to understand those people, but you should probably learn to say them. Aww. I know. For example, on the island of Jamaica, English is the official language. People speak English, but the type of English they speak is a patois, which means it's mixed with something else. So instead of saying they might say day. And instead of saying this, they might say dis. And instead of saying them, they might say dem. Also, instead of saying think, they might say tink or think. And instead of saying thumb, they might say tum or fum. And this is not only about Jamaica. There are different English speakers in different places in the world who might say f or t instead of th. And they might say d instead of th. So the question, what do they think, might sound like, what do they think? Or, what do they think? But let's go back to the word them, because the word them can be reduced to m or which sounds very, very similar to the word him when it's reduced, right? Do you remember our example sentence? We said, give him the ball. And how do we know that that means give him the ball and not give them the ball? We really don't, because the reduced sound of both of these words is very similar. For many speakers, there is a slight difference between them though. Him is reduced to im, and them is reduced to m. So the difference is im and m, which for many English learners is very difficult to differentiate. Sorry. And this is another example of a word that native speakers might actually write differently too. They might write em to mean them. So if they're writing you a message, they might say, tell them the truth, or they might say, tell them the truth, with em instead of them. Tell them the truth. Again, it's not 100% clear that the speaker is saying tell them. The speaker might also be saying tell him. But either way, tell them the truth. Or for example, give them the money, give them the money, give them the money. So I think now you understand how a lot of different words are reduced in sound and how different words are pronounced a little differently by different people around the world. But there's two more words that we need to talk about because they're also reduced, even though they're not pronouns. And these are the words have and has. Very common words. The word have is frequently reduced to of. And this is something that sometimes native speakers make a mistake with because when they're writing something, they might write the word of, of, instead of the word have. And that's because when they're speaking, it sounds very similar. Your parents might ask you, what have you learned today? What have you learned today? Someone might actually write the word of instead of writing the word have. What have you learned today? By the way, I hope you've learned something in this video, so before it's finished, make sure you subscribe to this channel and answer this question in the comments below. What have you learned today? And then the word has can be reduced to es or us, and that's using the schwa sound again. So if you go to a shop and you say, I want the discount, they can say, the discount has ended. The discount is ended. The discount has ended. The discount is ended. Of course, you could just say the discounts ended with apostrophe s, and this would mean the same thing. Or I could tell you this video's finished, or this video is finished, or this video has finished. Thank you so much for watching this video lesson. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, press the bell button so you get notified when new videos come out, and so you get notified when we go live, because you can join us for live speaking practice. If you'd like to join live speaking lessons every day, 4 or 5 times every day, with native speaking teachers who are also professional, certified teachers, then click on the link under this video and you can come to our website and get started today. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.